Now, along the lines of pessimism, maybe this is a follow-up sort of, in your book about CDC, the quote here that you use is, you ask, would we have the courage to admit our mistakes, and would we learn from those mistakes? Now, this is something people don't much like to talk about. They want to talk about the things that went well, the successes and the triumphs and so forth. But when you said that in the book, it just seemed that that's something we might want to talk about a little bit. Mistakes, these are things that people obviously tend to kind of want to, sweep into the background or whatever, but we've all had those experiences. Help us all maybe think about this idea of mistakes, learning from mistakes, how to be really sort of concrete about it. What's been your experience, Bill, on that score?
I regret that in the early 1990s, as the global polio program was underway, a decision was made to use the Sabin vaccine for the program because of the safety, the fact that that you didn't have to use needles and syringes, the fact that the virus would then migrate from children vaccinated to other children. It seemed like a good decision. But in the early 1990s, CDC did work in Africa to show that the things that were true in temperate climates may not be true in tropical climates, and that there was need to rethink this. And so in Ivory Coast, there was a study, what happens if you simply put the Salk vaccine into the DTP, which requires no extra needles, syringes, vials, storage, or anything, and continue to give the oral vaccine at the same time. So you use both vaccines together. And the surprising thing was, you could reduce by half the number of visits required to immunize children against polio. I mean, it just seemed like such a natural thing. I gave a talk in 92 or 93 in New Delhi saying this, and WHO totally rejected it. 3 people were able to make the decision, we will not change what we're doing. The head of the program at WHO said people will lose confidence in us if we change strategy. I said, no, they lose confidence if we have the wrong strategy, not if you change strategies. But the decision was made they would not change. And then in 10 years later, Bill Gates asked me to revisit this. I came to CDC, so I always regretted that I didn't push the way I should have at the time. And part of the reason I didn't push was one of the 3 people saying we're not going to change at a meeting that I didn't attend raised the question of whether I had a financial interest in Salk vaccine. And I thought, I don't need this. And so I dropped the whole subject for a while, and I shouldn't have. Then Bill Gates asked me to look at it. I came to CDC, talked to the polio people, and they all agreed we still should be adding Salk vaccine to the DDP, because at the end we have the problem of when do we stop using oral vaccine? It sometimes reverts and causes polio, and so we can't just keep giving it forever. And how do we know when to stop? Well, if you're using the Salk vaccine in the DTP, you never have to reach that conclusion. You just keep doing that. And then you could, every 10 years or so, revisit and say, should we take the Salk vaccine out? And I said, my guess is we'll never do that. We'll say it's such cheap insurance. We'll just keep doing it. So I went to WHO, having been at CDC to talk this out, met with J.W. Lee, who was the head of WHO at that time. He immediately saw this was the thing to do. And he became very excited. He said, what's the fastest way to do this? And I said, the fastest way is for you to become a dictator. And say, this is the new norm for the world. This is what we're going to be doing. And then ask the rich countries to subsidize the poor countries until they can put this into their budget. And it's just the Salk vaccine. It's not anything else. It's not delivered. And he was so excited you can't believe it, because he now saw a way out of this. And what happened? He had a stroke and died. And so we were back to square one. Now, WHO is
putting Salk vaccine. It's so late in the game, it becomes very much more difficult. And so we still have these hard countries of Pakistan and Afghanistan with polio, and with the problems of war and fighting. And in Pakistan, again, the unbelievable, unpredictable to me problem of people killing the polio vaccinators because they see the CIA as having used the polio program to try to get DNA on the children of Osama bin Laden. You don't see those things in advance. It tells you move fast with what you have, and this whole idea of one hand behind our back using one vaccine and not both. It's one of my biggest regrets that I didn't just push this from
At the time.
Yeah.
Another thing